What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. This time we're going to look at vintage complete figures that sold on eBay, as well as a large portion of ships and things like that sold. Some die cast here. I've got one controversial opinion on one of these items that I'll be curious to hear what you guys think, and let me know in the comments below whether you agree with me or not. But some interesting sales here, some pretty big prices. Nothing too surprising in terms of high or low, but I wanted to go through a number of different items, everything from early figures. We got some 12-inch figures, as you can see in the thumbnail, all the way to some last 17 figures. So with all of these items, I'm assuming that everything is 100% legit and that it's advertised as complete. There's no repro parts, things like that. Keep that in mind as you're going through that I didn't vet all these and zoom in on every little blaster and things like that. So it's just based on a very cursory glance, and I just thought that these were interesting enough to talk about. The first one is an R5D4. This is one I had in my what to buy video, and I was curious to see what this one would sell at. I think this is kind of an 80 grade example. Hard to tell exactly just because of the scuff on that sticker there on the front, but the chrome looks very clean. The paint on the head looks really clean. Probably would grade out at about an 80. And I was thinking like 40 bucks, 40, maybe 50 bucks. And this one sold for $49 plus $9.20 shipping on 11 bids. This closed on October 8th. So maybe a little higher than I expected, but R5D4 is a pretty popular character. And the droid is kind of timeless, just has a nice late 1970s vibe to him. Looks great, and I can understand why it sold that high, but a pretty nice example there. I mean, you budget in, let's call it 35 bucks plus shipping to get something like that one graded. And you're still at $100 or thereabouts, which is probably about the market value. 100, maybe 150 for an 80, and I think that's probably worth every penny of about 60 bucks after shipping. I've got a few 12-inch figures that did sell. Now this one was not mint in sealed box, so that's why I'm including this one in my loose complete video. But this one was a Stormtrooper. It looked to be kind of untouched, still has the band around its legs there as well as the waist. You can see the weapon there. Beautiful white figure, really nice clean condition. The box was also in excellent condition, so I expected this price to be pretty high, and it did not disappoint. This would be like qualified grading, a Q grade with the blue label with AFA or with Collector Archive, but a really nice clean box. And that's a beautiful box. I love the box art on that one. Just looks really nice. It also kind of screams late 70s. That one sold for $456 and change plus $12 shipping. That's probably about right, honestly. I mean, for a mint and sealed box example that was in the same condition, you can probably double or maybe even triple that price. So I think that's a pretty fair price for a qualified unused contents type of item. Next up, we've got a loose complete Jawa, and this is also on the 12-inch line. And I mean, technically it's 8-inch. The Jawa is vertically challenged, so to speak. So he's only about 8 inches tall, but this one was complete. It looked to be in pretty great condition overall. That one sold for $127.50 plus $10.99 shipping. Pretty easy to find the Jawa, the 12-inch line version of Jawa, loose and complete. It's not particularly difficult. I see those for sale quite often on Facebook. Next up, I've got the Patrol Dewback. Now, this was advertised as the 1983, but this is not the 1983. The box, from what I can tell, is actually the 1978 box without the long play logo. So they had the long play, the LP logo, and then they came out with another version a little bit after that. And then in 1983, they came out with the Collector Series, and it's got a big starburst in the corner of the box that says Collector Series. That's not what this is, even though it's advertised as the 1983. I'm just guessing here, but it looks like it's the 1979-ish version of this. Now, this one did have the reins for the dewback, but they were snapped, and that's a very common problem for this creature, is that the reins do not hold up over time. So, unfortunately, the reins have snapped on that one, but it included the box, it included the catalog, and that one sold for $110.50. Now, let's say that the reins were complete and they were not snapped. I think you can probably easily double, if not triple, the price on this one as well. It's just really tough to find those reins without some damage to them. Next up, I've got a few X-Wings. This was a loose, complete, and working, apparently, X-Wing. The canopy on this is what you got to watch out for. It does yellow over time, but this one is a survivor. It's in really great shape. Not much yellowing to the fuselage, but a little, maybe just a slight yellowing to the canopy. Stickers were in excellent condition. That one sold for $147.50 plus $16.50 shipping. But this is the one that I wanted to show you. This one was a unused contents, 100% complete X-Wing with the long play box. So this is from 1977, a very, very early example of the X-Wing and what it looked like in retail stores. It had the catalog, it had the instruction sheet, and then here is the sticker sheet that's unused, as well as the actual toy that is unused, with the cannons still in the baggie. So you knew this was going to go for big money, and it did not disappoint. It sold for $995 plus $22 shipping. So a big price, but you know, for what it is, that's a pretty fantastic item. Very tough to find these early X-Wings in such good condition. I mean, this is like probably was opened to verify that what's in there, and then whoever bought this originally just stuck it in a closet somewhere. And here we are 45 years later, and it's selling on eBay for, you know, $1,000 plus. So just an interesting sale I wanted to show you. Also, a couple of AT walkers sold. This one was advertised as complete. It sold for $299.95 with free shipping. And we've documented a few in these loose complete videos that have sold for less than that. I think the lowest I've seen recently is $186 plus shipping, more like $255, I believe was the number. So this one sold for a little bit more, but a pretty decent price. Now this one included the box. It also included a couple of loose incomplete figures, the catalog, as well as the instruction sheet. Pretty great condition overall. The box was, you know, not great condition, but it did include the box, and that one sold for more money. Obviously, it sold for $346 plus $56 shipping, so let's call it about $400 all in. Next up was the Millennium Falcon. This one included the box, and they did a good job of showing that the training ball, which is the most common thing missing from the Millennium Falcon, that one was complete in there, and I'm assuming again that it's complete. This one had the Empire Strikes Back packaging. That sold for $235 plus $30 shipping. Next up is the Rebel Transport. This is another one that you don't find complete very often for sale, especially with an unused sticker sheet. It also included the backpacks and the gas masks that came with this Rebel Transport. Pretty interesting item, and it, you know, it basically is an action figure carrying case that is disguised as a ship. So pretty cool item. $160.50 plus $25.65 shipping took that one home. Now here is the controversial one, okay? Now this was brought up by somebody who was watching the live stream with me and Boss Bounty and Chris from Rogue 5 Toys. And, you know, someone brought this up in the chat, and I did discuss it briefly in the live stream. But this was the die-cast metal TIE Bomber. It was advertised as near mint and complete, very white. But the question is, and this was brought up by the subscriber, I apologize, I don't remember your name. Has this been whitened? Has this been whitened? And so I'm showing a few photos here, but Chris, you know, I talked to Chris offline about this. He seems to think that this has been bleached, okay? I don't know who bought it. I'm not saying, I don't know the seller at all. I mean, I see his stuff occasionally, so I'm not trying to accuse the seller of anything. I want to get that out of the way. It did have some light paint chips and things like that, but it almost looked too white. It almost, you know, I looked at some other photos of TIE Bombers, and this just looks way too white to me. And either the photos have been brightened, potentially, or this thing has been, you know, been soaking in peroxide. And I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. If you happen to be the one who bought this, I would love to hear from you. You know, you can see a little bit of yellowing on the plastic wings. The body itself looks pretty good. I just don't know if you would soak a die-cast metal item in peroxide, if it would just take the paint off of it. So, you know, it's very possible that that would happen. You know, the chemical kind of reaction on die-cast metal with paint on it. Would peroxide whiten it, or would it just strip the paint off? I don't know the answer to that. I've never tried that. I'm not into doing peroxide and things like that. But it sold for $1,375 plus $5 shipping. So the market seems to think, anyway, that this is a legit, untouched, you know, non-doctored, so to speak, item. And if you happen to be the person that bought this, I would love to know what your reaction was when you unboxed it. Did it look right to you? Does it look factory fresh to you? And again, me personally, I think either the photos have been doctored or it has been some kind of chemical doctor going on with the paint on this thing to make it look more white than the original factory issue. And again, I'm not accusing the seller of anything because I don't know the answer, but to me, it doesn't look right. It just looks way too bright. And again, it could be photos. It could be the photos that could have hit that little bar that brightens up the photos a lot. So that could have been what happened. But anyway, the market seems to think it's worth $1,380. And again, if you happen to be the one that bought it, please leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Here was a loose complete Luke Bespin. That one sold for $52.50. A little bit of discoloration to the torso, which is common on these Lukes. Probably I would call that in 75 plus or 80 grade condition overall. But that sold for $52.50 plus $4.95 shipping. Next up is an interesting one. This is a Lily Letty Boba Fett. And so this was made in the Mexican Lily Letty factory. This is the correct variant. It's got the single scar on the back of the calf. Now, as I've talked about in other videos, there are two variations for the Lily Letty Fett, where the CPG 1979 on the back of the left leg is also scarred out. So there's a single scar versus double scar. This has a very pronounced single scar. But there is another version that has the double scar. The double scar is more rare, has been my experience. This is probably like in 75 grade condition, maybe 70 even. It's got some discoloration around the belt there on his crotch, but some paint chipping around both the helmet visor as well as on the armor. But that one still sold for $599 plus $15 shipping. So just an interesting sale there. Next up is a baggie. This was a tape sealed baggie for Bosk. This is the baggie version of Bosk for the mail away that you saw on the 21 back Empire Strikes Back transition cards. It was a secret action figure offer. It was for this Bosk. Now you can see some discoloration to the torso on this Bosk. So this was, even though the lettering on the baggie is in really great condition, because of that discoloration, you're probably looking at a 75, maybe an 80 grade. It was a tape seal baggie. The tape looks legit. I didn't see anything on the tape that gives me pause or anything like that. But that's still sold for $135.50 plus $5.85 shipping. That's a good deal, assuming that this is a legitimate baggie. I think let's call it about $140. $140 for a tape sealed early Bosk baggie mail away is a great deal in my opinion. So congrats to the buyer on that one. Next up, we've got a Hoth Stormtrooper advertised as complete, very white. Again, you never know whether the picture has super bright lighting or some kind of brightening effects going on. But it did look pretty nice and clean. That one sold for $44.99 plus $6.10 shipping. Next up, this price surprised me. I thought this one was very high. This was a brown snake Yoda. It was the Hong Kong COO. Now, it did look pretty clean. I'm not trying to say it wasn't a really nice figure, but this was the lighter green head. A little bit of scratching to the feet and to the hands there, probably like an 80 or 80 plus grade. It sold for $180. $180 seems a little stiff to me, but that's what it sold for, and it did not last long on the market. So, but a beautiful example of kind of the lighter green head Yoda, Hong Kong Yoda with the brown snake. Next up was the 2-1B droid. I just wanted to throw this one in because it's hard to tell because the photos were a little bit blurry. The plastic clear torso looked to be pretty clean overall, maybe just slight yellowing to it. The rest of the figure did have a staining on the back of the leg. So, it's not a very high-grade example. But if you're looking for loose, complete figures for your collection and you're not into grading, this is a good example of one you can pick up for cheap. It sold for $18.40 plus $6 shipping. That's not a bad deal if you're just looking for a loose droid to display on your shelf. Next up was Max Rebo Band. It was advertised as 100% complete, assuming all of those accessories were not repro. And these are very common repro accessories, unfortunately. But assuming that they're legit, $186.27 was the sales price plus $737 shipping, and that's kind of right in line with market. It seems to be the going rate for a loose, complete Max Rebo Band is around $180 to $210. They're all kind of trading in that narrow band there. And Max Rebo himself looked pretty good. I mean, he didn't have much fading going on with the arms or his head, which is the most common problem with this set. The gold piano accents are in pretty good shape, just very, very light damage there. And then the other band members, Size Snoodles and Droopy McCool, looked to be pretty clean as well. So I think that was a pretty good buy. 186.27 took that one home. We're going to dig into some last 17 figures now. First, we got the baggie that I showed in my what to buy video. Again, I was assuming that this tape sealed baggie was 100% legit, but this Barada sold for $159 plus $4.95 shipping. Assuming that baggie's legit, I still think that even if it baggie's not legit, the figure itself looked really clean. And you know, it looked like it might have had some modeling going on the arms there, but you know, assuming that baggie is truly factory sealed with that tape, that's not a bad deal. Now, what does a loose complete Barada in probably even better condition go for? Well, here he is. This was Barada. You know, didn't have any of the modeling going on his sleeves, but it was a really clean example overall. Look how pretty that figure is. And that one sold for $128.50 plus $4.49 shipping. In an auction, 29 bids on October 9th. That's a good deal for a loose, complete last 17 Barada. Here was a Monomon, same seller. This one sold for $251.50. This figure just continues to command big prices. Just some light issues on the hands and on the wrist area. One little tiny spot or two on the chest, but a very clean example overall for a Monomon for $251. And then here was Han Solo in Carbonite. This also included the coin that came on the Power of the Force 92 back. So a very nice example. Han definitely has been working out too much, at least on his neck. Look how thick that neck is. He skips leg day though. Look how skinny those legs are. He's got some bird legs going on, but his chest and his neck, I mean, this guy clearly does not skip upper body day at the Y. But $212.50 took that one home plus $10 shipping. And then finally I got a loose last 17 Luke Stormtrooper. I'm not sure if this weapon was the correct one or not. Some of these photos were a little on the blurry side, so hard to say. Luke himself had a little bit of spotting going on, but that still sold for $261 plus $513 shipping. Anyway, just some decent deals out there, some that surprised me on the high end, some on the low end, but I thought that you'd find this information helpful as you try to complete your collections. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.